This episode of Fluid Power Forum is sponsored by IFP Motion Solutions Incorporated, the leader at engineering electronics into fluid power distribution. IFP spans the 13 central states from Minnesota to Texas. For more information, visit ifpusa.com.
Absolutely, and it's no secret the messaging for Poclain at ConExpo and IFPE will really be centered around technology and innovation for our customers. So these new products that not only support some of the platforms that we've already discussed, but also electrification and, in fact, the next generation design for cam lobe motors.
Welcome to Fluid Power Forum, a podcast of the National Fluid Power Association. I'm your host, Eric Lenke, and it's my job to interview interesting people who are moving fluid power technology forward. If you'd like to be part of our show, we ask that you follow us on Twitter. You can find us there at the NFPA. And you can also share interesting and innovative uses of fluid power with our hashtag #OnlyFluidPowerCan. That is, in fact, one of the ways that we source topics for our show. If you see an interesting application of fluid power and you want to learn more about it, you can share it on social media with that hashtag #OnlyFluidPowerCan. And you just might hear it discussed on a future episode of Fluid Power Forum. Also, please subscribe to our show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on a lot of the other popular podcatching services. Wherever you find us, go ahead and subscribe and then give us a quick rating. Those ratings really do help promote the show and allow more and more of our friends in the industry to join in on these important conversations. On today's show, our guest is Matt Christensen. Matt is the Vice President of Sales at Poclain Hydraulics, an independent industrial company specializing in the design, manufacture, and sales of hydrostatic transmissions. And Poclain is going to be showcasing several new drive solutions for mobile platforms at IFPE, the International Fluid Power Exposition. And so we invited Matt into our forum today to learn more about what we'll see at that show, about these applications, and about the fluid power systems that make them possible. So Matt, welcome to Fluid Power Forum.
Hello, Eric. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you on our show, especially as we keep creeping up on that IFPE trade show coming up in March of 2023. Excited to hear about some of the new innovations that Poclain will be exhibiting there. But before we go there, tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and your background. How did you find your way into your current position?
Sure. It was a little actually by accident. I spent the last 24 years in fluid power, and I'm currently located in Milwaukee, working for Poclain. I actually started as an engineer out of Iowa State, and though my specialty was fluid mechanics or compressible fluids with turbo machinery and turbine engines, I ended up finding a job with John S. Barnes, or it was Haldex, now Concentric in Rockford, Illinois,
Okay.
and found that going from compressible fluids to incompressible fluids was quite a nice shift.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I worked there for quite some time and wasn't sure if I wanted to really spend my entire career in fluid power. And so I did a short stint with Comac Systems, which was a high-speed precision automation house. And little did I know that you never can really get away from fluid power once you're in.
Right.
And found that I was often faced with pneumatics, hydraulics, and industrial motion control. And so really enjoyed that segment to be doing something a little bit different in automation and more of an industrial application. However, I really found during that time that my passion was for the technical, but also more so for working closely with customers. And so I actually ended up going back to Concentric into sales and marketing, and have been in sales and marketing ever since.
Okay.
So spent the last few years with Danfoss Power Solutions in low-speed, high-torque motors and orbital steering as a global sales director. And then the last 3.5 years, I've been at Poclain in North American sales with responsibility for outside sales and application engineering.
That's great. You've been in a couple of different positions throughout your career and a couple of great companies that you've listed there. And fluid power, as you said, it seems like you tried to get away from it and it kept dragging you back, if that's the right way to say it, right?
Yeah. It's been honestly a really enjoyable career, and spending time early on in design engineering and then project engineering, R&D. You can spend a lot of your career doing different types of things in fluid power. So it's been a very a good industry with a lot of great people.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's a technology that, as you discovered and as you well know, it's everywhere in so many different applications that it's really that connection with the customer that creates the innovation and the value that comes out of the product, right? So you must have
I think it's
experienced that.
definitely
Yeah,
connection with the customer, and then making sure that we have the technologies that the customer needs, and that's the magic formula, I think, to success in fluid power.
right. Good. Well said. Well, tell us a little bit more about Poclain as a company. People may not be familiar with them, although they are pretty ubiquitous in the hydraulic space. But tell us more about them.
Yeah, so Poclain is a family-owned company. It was founded in 1926 by the Bataille family. It's based in Verberie, France, which is just a little bit northeast of Paris. And it has over 2,400 employees and 8 plants worldwide, of which one of them is the facility in Yorkville, Wisconsin, where I currently sit. One of the interesting things, I guess, is Eric, do you know what the very first product Poclain ever produced?
Oh, I used to know this. It's something to do with excavators, isn't it? Some early form of the hydraulic excavator.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. So a lot of
Right.
people assume that our very first products were cam load motors, but it was actually 3 and 4 wheel trailers and then a hydraulic excavator. And it was the swing drive motor on the excavator that became the beginnings of the hydraulic product line. And in fact, in France, if you talk about a Poclain, it's often a word that's synonymous with an excavator.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I had heard that story once before, but thanks for, you guys have a long
Yeah.
history. As you said, you're kind of synonymous with it, at least in France, right? So,
Yep, that's correct. So because of that, the initial developments of the swing drive motors out of the excavator development, over the past 90 years, Poclain has developed a full line of radial piston cam load motors, closed loop axial piston pumps, power transmission valves, traction valves, stack valves. And though we're a little bit lesser known for it, we actually have a line of electronics and software. And our primary market is mobile equipment, which is a vast majority of our business. And we have a small bit that's in the remainder of the industrial market. The customers we serve are primarily in construction, agriculture, material handling, mining, environmental, and marine. And then even within these categories, we have many other applications that fall into harvesting of some type, forestry, on road and on rail.
mm-hmm.
But for the most part, if it's used off-road and moves, we probably have product in those applications. And when it comes to on-road, you won't find us in things like passenger vehicles or most over-the-road trucks. However, we do have a couple of hydraulic traction products that can add additional traction at the axles hydraulically while being able to run at highway speeds with the hydraulics disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our added drive product, which I think we talk about a little bit more today.
Yeah.
And then finally, an additional broad market that we are in is the electromobility market, which is where the hybrid electric and hydraulic systems reside, and is currently something that a lot of people enjoy talking about.
Well, it's one of the really hot trends, for lack of a better way of saying it, not just in the fluid power world, but clearly in the mobile equipment world as well. It's, the momentum behind the electrification is something that is really shaking up a lot of supply chains as we go forward with this. And maybe that's a good place to start, to kind of get into, we talked earlier about the tight connection between a company like Poclain and its customers to help develop the right technologies. You guys are appropriately responding to a lot of those electrification trends that you're seeing in your customer markets, the ones that you just described. Why is that happening, do you think? I mean, from your perspective, what's driving so much of that electrification on those platforms?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind it. it's actually hard to miss what we're seeing currently because we see so much electrification activity with passenger vehicles, trucks, and even things like ferries and in the marine industry.
Mm-hmm.
However, you think about it, going back in mobile equipment and even fluid power, many vehicles, including material handling, forklifts, aerial lifts, mobile electric work platforms, have been fully electric for a long time.
Right.
So it really begs the question, what's changing in the mobile equipment environment? And I think we're really seeing the convergence of several elements. One is the concern over the use and reduction of the limited non-renewable energy sources that we currently have.
Right.
Secondly, I think there's a desire to design machines that are more efficient to either reduce or eliminate energy waste, whether it's renewable or non-renewable. In other words, how do we reduce the energy we consume in the first place, or never use that wasted energy to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
There's also a desire to reduce emissions, and we're not just talking about combustion byproducts, but also fluid contamination or fluid leaks, or even noise emission. For example, one of the trends that we're seeing is more compact construction machines are used in the city or even inside enclosed structures.
Right.
During the building process. Mitigating or preventing both the noise and combustion emissions has become more important. You have control and connectivity. As we develop more intelligent machines, more precise control and connectivity becomes possible, offering greater productivity and safety. And then finally, I think cost is also an important element. And while some electrified technologies do cost more upfront at the moment, machine manufacturers are looking to reduce the total cost of ownership by reducing energy consumption, increasing the uptime, and simplifying the machine architecture. So addressing all these elements, I think, leads to better machines that increase productivity and even improve operator comfort. The important thing, I think, from Poclain's standpoint is to remember that this is a journey towards electrified vehicles, and it's a path or a spectrum in which there will be an evolution and an overlap of products, technology, and solutions as we move from traditional hydraulic architectures to electrohydraulic, and then finally fully electric platforms. It's possibly similar to the transition that occurred many years ago from fully mechanical systems for vehicles to
Right.
hydraulic and hydrostatic systems that we see today. But this spectrum looks different depending on the vehicle, the type of application, the duty cycle, and the amount of machine power required.
Yeah, that's a great summary of kind of the forces in the market that are compelling or driving a lot of this. It really is about doing more with less, right? For a variety of different reasons, which is kind of the more things change, the more things stay the same, I guess, with regard to those kinds of drivers in the marketplace. But we've talked about those kinds of trends with other guests on our show for numerous episodes, again, because it's really kind of taking over the marketplace in a lot of ways. And it really comes down to those, every machine and every duty cycle and every application is slightly different and needs a slightly different solution. It sounds like you're seeing the same thing for a lot of your products as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that you have a lot of products that you'll be showcasing at the trade show that we mentioned, and maybe I could ask you to kind of give us a high overview of some of those highlights, some of those things that you're bringing new to the market that are helping impact a lot of those mobile applications you just described.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's no secret the messaging for Poclain at ConExpo and IFPE will really be centered around technology and innovation for our customers. So these new products that not only support some of the platforms that we've already discussed, but also electrification and, in fact, the next generation design for cam lobe motors.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really several things that we're going to be displaying and focusing on. One will be new drive solutions for skid steer loaders and compact track loaders. We're going to talk more in depth about that in a bit.
Right.
But secondly, we also will be displaying some product information for traction on demand, which is also synonymous with AdaDrive. And that is our technology that allows on-road trucks that work on-road, but also spend a small percentage of the time in difficult conditions like where traction is a consideration. So construction sites, agricultural fields, and so forth, where you don't want to get stuck, this is where Poclain has developed a plug-and-play solution, and it's called AdaDrive. So it's a complete hydraulic system that can be disengaged. So you have the traction hydraulically when you need it, but then when you disengage it, you don't have any of the mechanical losses that would come from some of the competing or alternative four-wheel drive or six-wheel drive technologies. The third element that we'll be displaying or focusing on will be our new integrated service brakes. So as we look at our customers' need for increased safety when driving off-road machines that need to run faster, machines are getting heavier, they're doing more. We also want to be keeping up with the requirements for not only getting the vehicle up and moving, but also being able to stop that vehicle. And so our new range of integrated service brakes are not only durable, they're also a higher performance line of brakes and offer an alternative to what most people would use as a separate drum or disc brake from dynamic braking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is actually what I'm kind of excited about, is ConExpo will also be an opportunity for us to share the vision and the future for the next generations of cam lobe motors. The reality is that the cam lobe motor is not fundamentally changed in design for decades. There's been small changes along the way, but it has not changed in terms of the design and technology. We made a step change at Poclain and the design of cam lobe motor with the MHP high performance motor that came out several years ago. But now we're working on something that's even more revolutionary that will change how cam lobe motors are used in the market. The only problem is you're going to have to come to ConExpo IFPE to find out more about this development. So when it comes to sharing our new motor generation with visitors, we will unveil new video and information along with having experts there at the booth to talk about what our vision of the future of the hydraulic cam lobe motor looks like.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's one. And then, that's reason enough to go to the show from my point of view, right? So it's we are several months away, so I'm sure you're still kind of guarding those secrets, but please go to the show and check that out. But you were going to finish up, I think, with one more item before I interrupted you there.
And finally, probably one of the biggest attractions or the most noticeable things that'll be added to our ConExpo booth this year will be the presence of an electrohydraulic mini loader in order to illustrate our alignment with electrification and supporting OEMs in their electrification projects and IoT or Internet of Things connected engineering. And when we return after the break here, we will talk a little more about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that. It was a great overview again of what people will be able to see at the booth. And thanks for the reminder. We're going to take just a quick pause here to tell our listeners a little bit more about the show, and then we'll come back and dig into some of those details in a little bit more depth. I want to tell our guests more about IFPE, the International Fluid Power Exposition. IFPE is the place where you can learn everything you need to help your company stay at the forefront of the mega trends affecting your business and industry. From sensor technology and data analytics to robotics and automation, you're going to see the latest innovations in fluid power that will help your machines and your applications achieve your technology, your performance, and your business goals. Only at IFPE can you have those in-depth technical conversations one-on-one with the engineers or with other executives to spark new ideas. You can also talk with suppliers about your specific challenges and the different solutions that they can offer. Or you can find new suppliers and new ways of doing things. You can also attend innovative education classes and sessions that cover the latest fluid power topics and industry trends, some at the college level that provide professional development hours as well. There is no other trade show that brings together as many different sectors of the fluid power, power transmission, and motion control industries together in one place. And this special event happens only once every 3 years in conjunction with ConExpo ConAg, the largest international gathering for the construction industries. Our next IFPE show is going to be held March 14 through the 18th, 2023 in Las Vegas, Nevada. To learn more and to reserve your place, visit IFPE.com. All right, Matt, we're back from that break, and As we said going into it, we wanted to spend a little bit more time digging into a couple of the examples that you described that people will see at your booth. Why don't we start with that hydraulic motor for skid steers and compact track loaders, if I heard you right. Tell us a little bit more about that and what challenges it's going to help overcome for those machines.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of opportunity, but also lots of challenges when people are designing skid steer loaders and compact track loaders. As we talk about purely, say, the hydraulic products that we're talking about today for the skid steer loaders and compact track loaders, Poclain spent a lot of time talking to our customers and determined what would we need to develop an improved product for these platforms in the construction market.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, skid steers and compact track loaders, everybody associates them with construction and the construction market. However, a lot of them are actually being used quite heavily in agriculture as well by farmers and feedlots and things like that. Right. And so the duty cycles can vary quite a bit, but it is a extremely vibrant and growing market segment, especially in North America. And so what we did is we developed and arrived at a group of products that are specifically designed for today's skid steer loaders and compact track loaders. The two platforms have actually evolved over the years. They've become more capable, higher horsepower, faster. A lot of them have 2-speed capability, higher payload and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we've had to adapt and bring new products alongside as well. And this new cam load product offers the industry a leading fit, performance, durability, and reduced requirements for service. Finally, this product is also specifically designed to work with sprocket type interfaces for direct chain or track drives. In terms of challenges in the skid steer loader and compact track loader applications, there are several. And again, the people designing these machines have a much better handle on all of the challenges that go into designing these machines. So our perspective is really going to be from the hydraulics and specifically the motors that are designed for this. Mm-hmm. But I believe the top challenges are really broken up into 3 categories. The first is durability, which would include bearing life, contamination from the external environment, and heat management. Mm-hmm. The second is performance, increasing the need for 2-speed operation, smooth shifting and control, symmetrical operation, which really means that the motor operates in a similar performance in a forward and reverse directions, high pressure, and then efficiency. The final challenge is probably fit. As machines continue to be very compact, the space claim in the tub continues to be important. And the variety and complexity of tracked vehicle undercarriages, both with and without suspension, requires a lot of flexibility in motor placement and sprocket selection. Mm-hmm. Poclain is going to display these new hydraulic motors designed for these 2 platforms for both track drive on CTL or chain drive on skid steer loaders at ConExpo. And you'll have to come there to ConExpo to see the full line of products.
Well, it's a very, as you said, it's a very ubiquitous machine, right? You see it increasingly, I think. It's kind of the workhorse of a lot of construction and ag sites. And so it makes sense that they're being used more, and the durability issue really comes to the forefront, I would suppose.
Yep, and as the payload capacity, the horsepower, speed all increase, and they become more capable, they're starting to overlap with some of the machines, larger machines that historically would have been used in that same application.
Right. So these new drive products or motor products that you have really do help address some of those concerns.
That's correct.
Yeah. If I have my information correctly, you or other members of your team have been selected to give a presentation during the education program associated with the trade show. Is it focused on these innovations, or what is that going to be about?
It's actually going to be focused on powertrain optimization for compact mobile equipment using electro-hydraulic solutions and IoT, or the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
So it's not specifically limited to skid steer loaders and compact track loaders like we just finished talking about. It's more looking at the entire range of mobile equipment and utilizing a paired electro and a hydraulic system together. So in this case, for example, we'll talk a little bit more about this in detail, but the paper will share a lot of information, or the presentation will share a lot of information about this concept and actually implementing this in real time around an electrohydraulic mini loader. So while we can provide a complete package, whether it's electrohydraulic or a fully electric package for mobile equipment, it's important that OEM machine manufacturers realize the benefit of working with a company like Poclain that understands the complexity of engineering a highly efficient hydraulic side of the machine and then marrying that with the electric portion.
Mm-hmm.
This is an important step for OEMs as they create electrohydraulic machines on the journey to a fully electric machine. And to get into a little bit more detail on this, just simply the decision on whether to use the variable speed of the motor and the control that's available there with a fixed displacement pump, or to pair a variable motor with a variable displacement pump, can be a critical decision in how that machine is going to operate, how it's going to consume energy. And there's lots of things that go into deciding which of those scenarios you're going to use. But either way, you can have a very efficient electrical system, but if you don't have the efficiency on the hydraulic side as well, we get back to this idea where we're wasting energy that never needed to be consumed in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's, I guess, one of the key trends as we keep talking about that, as we increase the efficiency of the prime mover, for lack of a better way of saying it, right? It has to be matched by the efficiency gains on the hydraulic actuation side of these machines, right? So
Right.
Otherwise they won't meet their overall machine goals. And so these products really then help. And again, I think it sounds like it's a different solution based on the machine and in the application and the duty cycle each time.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
why having an experienced partner in this is really important. And you might ask, how do we know what's the most efficient setup? A lot of that comes through testing, either at our company itself or on the machine or at the customer site.
Right.
But it gets into linking this idea of IoT and service offerings, which is something that we can offer to our customers who want to improve their machine through data acquisition and analysis.
Right.
Thanks to some of the products and the technology that we have. And so essentially what this is being able to instrument a machine, not on a test track or not in the back lot of one of our machine manufacturers, but rather to put data boxes out in real-time applications with real operators and real duty cycles to really understand how is the machine behaving, how is the system behaving, and what kind of energy is being consumed, and what is our overall efficiency.
Right. And it sounds like you're going to be in a position to demonstrate some of that technology on that. You've mentioned it a few times now, that electro-hydraulic mini loader that you'll have actually in the Poclain booth. Let's talk a little bit more about that and what capabilities you're going to be able to demonstrate with that.
Yeah, well, of course, for those who've been at IFPE and Con Expo, depending on where you're at in the huge landscape of the show, it limits you to what you're able to do in terms of vehicle demonstrations and things like that.
Sure.
And what we've actually elected to do is, again, we will have the electro-hydraulic mini loader at our booth. And while it won't be driving around and will be static, it will be essentially, it is the development and can be driven fully electrohydraulically on a test track or on a site. But what we've elected to do is, for our visitors that come in and visit the booth, we're going to have a bit of a virtual reality, or at least augmented reality system set up. So at different spots on the machine, you'll be able to use a device to scan a code and be able to see inside the machine, to see some of the information about how it was developed, or what kinds of technology is being used to make the machine move, to store the battery power, what kind of motors and so forth. And what that's really intended to do is not only demonstrate our ambition to be a partner in compact machine electrification, but to also demonstrate that we are able to propose and complete an entire package of these components for somebody who wants to either electrify their hydrostatic machine and also wants to keep the hydrostatic transmission. So again, this is a good stepping point for those who are not quite ready to go to a fully electrified machine, or perhaps the type of market or application you're in doesn't dictate that a fully electric machine is necessarily the best solution at the moment.
Right. I mean, there's going to be those applications where the hydraulic actuation is going to remain, depending on the power density and the other kinds of performance needs, if you will. So all the more reason to kind of better figure out the marriage between the electric power source and the hydraulics, right?
Yeah, and again, this is a spectrum. It's a journey because we need some time for really, I think, battery technology or fuel cell technology to come along a little bit further, so that we have a power density that's a little closer to the power density that we're getting right now from non-renewable fuel sources.
Well, it sounds like that mini loader setup that you just described in your booth is going to be a great tool for those discussions that take place that we've talked about a few times now between a supplier and a customer about an application that's going to make sense for their own needs. So that I'm looking forward to that. I'll be there at the Poclain booth. I want to try the virtual reality part of it. That's for sure. That sounds great.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I know we're coming up on the end of our time together. I wonder if we appreciate all the information you've shared about what we can see and what Poclain is bringing to market as part of the show. Maybe as we wrap up, I can ask you to talk a little bit more generally about the show itself, about IFPE and why it's such a great place for people who are looking for these kind of solutions to attend.
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent show. It's one that I look forward from a visiting standpoint, even though the preparation and leading up to it can be a lot of work. But it is a unique venue that places a lot of global manufacturers in every working portion of today's equipment. And all these manufacturers are in one place ready to discuss vehicle solutions. But what I would say, though, is that if you are a machine manufacturer and you are waiting until ConExpo to investigate and see some of this new technology, unfortunately, I think you're already late. Great organizations such as NFPA, AEM, and IFPE can connect you with most of these manufacturers at any time. And so don't wait till ConExpo to come around every 3 years to take advantage of these opportunities to talk with fluid power manufacturers about your product and system needs. Many of the technologies and products that are being displayed at ConExpo in March coming up are the very products that manufacturers like Poclain are already working with our customers to apply and implement now. And so in many respects, this technology is already out of the bag, and it's available to our customers and people in the fluid power industry now. So don't wait to ConExpo. However, it is, again, a really great place to see the latest technology, products, machines, and trends all in one place. Most importantly, you're going to have to come to IFPE ConExpo if you want to see what the next generation of cam lobe motor looks like.
Absolutely. Well, that's well said. And we appreciate your enthusiasm, and we'll be looking forward to the show coming up in March of 2023. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. All right. Well, that is going to wrap things up for this episode of Fluid Power Forum. My thanks again to Matt Christensen, who has been my guest on this episode. If you would like to connect with him prior to the show, as he stressed, the best way to do that is by his email address. And we're going to put a link to that in the show notes for this episode. I know he would welcome anyone with questions about Poclain or any of their products to contact him directly. So remember, to learn more about fluid power generally, your best bet is to attend that IFPE trade show. We're going to be March of 2023 in Las Vegas, Nevada. For more information, visit IFPE.com. Also remember, if you like our podcast, follow us on Twitter. We're there at the NFPA, and keep sharing those interesting and innovative uses of fluid power with our hashtag #OnlyFluidPowerCan. We truly want to hear from our listeners about the kind of topics you'd like to hear more about on the show. Fluid Power Forum is a podcast of the National Fluid Power Association. I'm your host, Eric Lenke, and I'm reminding you to join us next time in the forum.